Hi.
Hey, Tom.
How are you, Sarah?
Good. How are you?
Very good.
Ugh, I just got Brian and Sean's text, so it might just be us for a couple minutes.
Yes. And I think Amy's going to join us too, isn't she?
Yeah, she's supposed to. I hope so.
Good. Good.
I'm a
You're
little,
not feeling well.
you have to forgive me.
This is the best team meeting for not feeling well.
I know, that's what I was gonna say. That thank goodness you guys aren't having to be exposed to any of my disgusting germs.
Boy, a lot of people have been sick this year.
Yeah, I don't typically get sick. My boyfriend is like always sick, and I'm usually fine. And I came down with something Saturday night, and it's just been. Ugh.
Oh, that's a bummer. Are you recording?
Yeah, I am. I set it up because oh,
Good.
thank you. I set when I did I upgraded my account so we could have unlimited
I
rec-
saw
and so
that.
when I had that option, I was able to set it up so it automatically records all of our meetings just by default. And I set it up so I think that you guys have the option of um, recording as well if someone wanted to record as kind of like a backup. But
Oh, mine in the corner says recording, but I think that's you.
okay, cool. Yeah, it says in the corner.
Up
So
in the upper left-hand corner, it says recording, but I'm not sure if that's your recording.
okay, cool.
Just send the link.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so
Did you happen to see my email?
yeah, I saw the email you just sent about, or not just sent, but maybe like 15 minutes ago. No, I guess it was more than that.
Yeah, this afternoon, but that's okay.
I just checked it 15 minutes ago. That's what it was.
That's okay.
And yeah, I agree with all that. I think you're right that we probably will need to set up another meeting or at least have consistent back and forth with each other um, as we prep for the interview next week.
Right.
Yeah.
Were you able to do the readings?
I wasn't able to get through all of them. I tried and I've been so under the weather. And she didn't
There's
post
a,
that till yesterday. So it was really hard to try to.
I know.
So I got through like half of the one that we had to search through the ASU library, the chapter
Good.
7
Chapter 7?
of the
Yeah.
interview.
Yes.
And then,
I think that was the most important one, too.
yeah, and then I haven't gotten through any of the other, our book reading or any of the other like supplemental stuff that she posted.
I just did chapter 9 tonight, so I did 7 and those things. So I read them.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
you're right. If it just gets posted, I've always figured that postings on Sunday, that until Wednesday. That didn't work this way.
Yeah. Well, and I have my other class, a paper is due every Tuesday night. So usually Monday and Tuesday are kind of focused on my like finance class. And then I try to get to this class like Sunday. But then I couldn't this week, obviously. So,
Yes, me too.
and then,
So another grade came through, though. Our discussion 2 was just fine.
oh, it was just posted. Okay. I don't know if I've been so out of it all day. I've taken the last 2 days off of work and I can't remember the last time I
Well, that's too bad.
was just feeling, pardon me.
Hi, Amy.
Yep.
She's on.
Coming.
There she is.
Hey, Amy.
She's probably muted.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome.
Hello.
Ryan and Sean will be late, but they're going to join us.
Okay.
We just adopted this Zoom in our office across the board for all of our clients.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's really great.
Yeah, we use it at Starbucks a lot. We do like district meetings with other store managers and then our district manager. We use it. So I was hoping I could use my Starbucks email to get
Oh,
the upgrade for free, but it didn't work. So.
to give you a cough drop, I would.
My boyfriend's name is Tom also. And so
Oh.
we went to a concert last night. We couldn't have gone. We were both sick, but we bought our tickets like before Thanksgiving. And it was like raining here in Boston. It was cold, and so now both of us are worse. So like, this is the dumbest decision we could have made when we were sick.
Who did you see?
We went. It was the Lorde concert. We went for the opening act though. It was this
Okay.
artist named Mitski, and we got our times wrong, so we only ended up getting one of her songs. We got.
Oh.
We're like, this was the waste of time and money, but
Oh, but you got to see one.
yeah. But we had like both of our pockets were full of throat lozenges, and we just were like all night
Yeah.
using these throat lozenges.
2 weeks ago, I went to Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Oh, fun!
Yeah, they were. You know, there's only 2 originals that are still alive.
Mhm.
Really good.
Oh my god, that sounds like such like a high energy, like really.
It was just high energy. And in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, well, next week I'm going to see the Grand Ole Opry.
Mm-hmm.
Been there.
Oh, you go traveling? Is
Yeah,
it
I'll be down in Nashville.
Nashville?
Yeah. And then 2 weeks later, I've got tickets to Ritchie Valley and the Four Seasons.
Oh my god,
He's still performing.
good for him! Gosh,
Yep.
that's crazy.
Yeah, I love concerts. I love going to those things. They're fun.
And then Amy, you're
Everybody,
going to Vegas.
what?
Amy, you're going to Vegas this weekend, right?
Yes.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, it's my first time in Vegas.
Ugh. One of my good friends is wants to go in October for her birthday. And it's her 30th birthday, and I was telling her, I was like, I think we're too old for Vegas. Like, we went when we were 21, 22. It's like, I definitely cannot do what I used to do, but we'll see.
Still do it. You just can't do as much.
Oh my gosh. This is as late as I stay up Wednesday nights for this Zoom call. And I'm like, all right.
Um,
Oh, I slept all day today, which is why I didn't get the reading done. So we'll see. Were you able to get to the readings, Amy?
I haven't printed out. I kind of skimmed through it, and it's the ones on the library, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm kind of confused about how we're supposed to come up with questions and stuff.
right.
Mm-hmm. And I think that was the thing that kind of that we would discuss in this meeting too, like what the focus. If we were talking last meeting, or you said you saw the recording, but we were talking and it seemed like Tom would be kind of the best person for us to interview just because of his experiences and just kind of the diversity of experiences. And so whether we wanted to talk about like leadership and being part of a team in general for you, Tom, because you said that you were part of like a helicopter medevac team, is that right?
Right.
And then also this like the financial advising team or company that you started.
Right. Yeah, and we can do any, what I thought I would do is if I'm going to be the interviewee,
Mm-hmm.
I'll send out kind of a synopsis of how that team worked. You know, just describe the whole system of medical evacuation.
Okay.
Then you can we can form questions. I can do that tomorrow if you want. But then what we could do is we could form questions off of the structure and just go right out of the textbook on that chapter 7 as to what kind of questions we want to ask. You can ask me any questions. I'll be more than happy to answer them. But I think what we have to is make sure that we focus on the team effort and not stories. My problem is I'll get off into stories.
My problem is that's what I want to hear.
And we can do a little of both. That's fine. How the team functions was really a fascinating thing in Vietnam. So
Okay.
I'm more than happy to do that. And anybody can ask me any questions about anything. The other course I'm taking right now is veteran experience, and it's going right through the Revolutionary War all the way up to today. That's really kind of neat.
What's your major, Tom?
I don't know what, let's see. Somebody's still having trouble with their internet. Is that Brian?
Oh yeah, that's Brian.
Okay. I'm getting a bachelor's degree in the College of Integrated Arts and Sciences.
Mm-hmm.
Transferred in 76 credits from the University of Maryland. And so I'm taking, all of my credits were all sciences back in the day. Chemistry, physics, math, animal science, all of that. And so now I'm get to take all kinds of liberal arts, sociology, psychology. It's really it's wonderful. It's fun.
Did you have a plan to go in like the healthcare field with all those sciences? Or?
Yeah, when I was going to school, I wound up, I wanted to be a veterinarian.
Okay. Oh, my best friend's a veterinarian.
Oh, yeah?
She actually just joined the Army as like part of their veterinary corps. So she's heading to training in a few weeks, which will be interesting.
That's pretty neat. But I transferred colleges because I was a 2.9 and a 3.9 world. Mm-hmm. And so I transferred up to the University of Minnesota, and I was drafted.
Oh.
That's why I wound up in the Army.
Oh, I think you just got muted.
I did?
Oh, no, maybe not. Maybe I just did.
So that's what I'm taking. I'm just taking tons of courses to get through the rest of it.
I was in nursing school before I moved out to Boston, and couldn't transfer my credits. And so we took them as just like basic.
Isn't that awful?
Yeah. The nursing schools I applied to, they said, well, we'll take you, but you can start over from scratch. And I said, I've already done, organic chemistry and biochem and physics and all that stuff. I don't want to do it again. So that's kind of how I ended up here.
So when do you graduate?
Hopefully May. Tom and I are moving to San Francisco in like September. He's in law school, and so he'll graduate next month. And then he's going to be working for a big firm in San Francisco. So we're moving there, and I'm going to take like fall A off just so I don't have to deal with
moving in.
Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out, I'm hoping to graduate in May. I'm just not sure if I'll finish my classes in May or finish them next summer. But
let's see. How about you, Amy? When do you graduate?
Not sure. I'm what's it called? I have 2 jobs right now, but currently in the process of becoming a supervisor at Starbucks. So hopefully I'll be able to take more classes once that happens, because I don't know. Just right now it's just hard because of 2 jobs and then handling all these other stuff.
Yeah.
Congratulations on your promotion.
Yeah.
Thank you. It literally happened like 2 days ago. They're like, let's do this. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I remember you had mentioned that you were hoping to do that. So that's cool. Yeah, I'm out here in Boston. They have like we have shift managers. So it's kind of like an assistant manager. But they don't have anywhere else in the country. So when I move, I have to decide if I want to go like down to a shift supervisor or try to step up to like a store manager. I'm like, kind of like what you were saying, when you're like juggling a lot of things. I'm kind of like, I just want to focus on getting through school. So I don't want to take on too much, but.
How many courses do you take per semester?
Me?
Per 7.5 weeks, both of you?
I'm only taking 2 right now. I took 3 each term in the fall and was a very unpleasant person. Tom probably wanted to break up with me because I was just crazy. So.
Yeah. How about you, Amy?
I'm doing 2 as well.
Yeah, and I'm doing 2 also. I started with 3 and I dropped 1.
Yeah. It was funny, the third classes in the fall, I took 2 like major required, like a leadership class and a integrated science class, and then an elective. And both times it was my electives that were killing me. That they were just like crazy workloads, really unclear like expectations, bringing my GPA down. So I was like, this isn't worth it.
Wow.
So we'll see.
Well, do you think we should start with an outline, or how do you want to do?
Yeah, I think
a lot of material to cover.
Yeah. Let me pull up the thing that Brian had sent last week.
The questions, I didn't get those from him. I got them, but I lost them.
Okay, do you want me to forward it to you?
That would be nice, yes.
Yeah, it looks like none of us have, there's a couple of bullet points, but
Yeah, he only had 3, I think.
yeah, okay. Let me see if this will work. Forward.
Yeah, I have not been able to forward.
What's your email, Tom? I don't have it in my general ASU.
It's TSTHILAI.
I gotcha.
There you go.
Sweet. Okay, tell me if this went through when you're able to access the Google Doc.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, that's the team charter, right?
Oh, did I send you the charter? I
Yes.
thought I sent you the interview questions. Oh, I did. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Okay. Fog brain. Okay, forward. Okay. That one should work.
Yes. Right. And I think that's probably before he read chapter 7,
Yeah.
but they're great questions.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're just excellent. I think what we're supposed to do is each one of us are supposed to come up with 5 questions.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things we were to discuss is if we wanted to do like a round robin where I ask a question, you respond, Amy asks a question, you respond, or if we wanted to each go through and I have my, 8 or 10 questions and then it moves on to Amy and then Brian and then Sean.
Right.
Or if we wanted to just have it kind of be this collective like list of questions that we each kind of pull from.
Whatever way we use. I think that round robin is better in case we run out of time. Everybody's got a chance, and everybody has to.
Yeah. And I think I don't think that the time thing that we will really be an issue. She said it should be at least 2 hours. And so I think if we go over, and since I can schedule the interviews or schedule the meetings now without her assistance to be however long we want, we don't have to worry about like getting cut off.
You mean for our next time?
For our actual interview next Thursday. Like she had said that she would schedule the meetings. So we wouldn't have to worry about the time limit. But I emailed her today and said I decided on my own to upgrade so that we don't have time limits anymore. So she doesn't even have to be the one to schedule it.
Is she okay with that?
She didn't respond yet. So I just was throwing it out there for her because also I realize I have a mandatory work meeting that ends at 2 next week to my time, which is when we are supposed to start. And I live like 5 minutes away from my house, or I live 5 minutes away from my work. So I can be back here by like 2:10. I just would be a couple minutes late joining you guys to the interview. So.
Well, if you do the invite, you'll be right on time.
I know. That's why I was like, so if I just do the invite for 2:15, then I don't even have to worry about holding you guys up.
Exactly. Okay, so all 3 of us will be online, and that is next, that's 4/12 at 2 p.m. Arizona time, correct?
Mhm.
Oh, it's 2 p.m. Arizona time. I'm so dumb. Then I can make it. Never mind. I was supposed
Is that right?
Yeah, probably.
Let me check this.
No, that sounds right.
Is that what you have, Amy?
Yes, 2 to 3:30, I believe.
Okay. So that's 4 for you and 5 for me, right, Tom?
Uh, for me,
Yeah, and then 5 for me.
and it's the
2 for me.
And 2 for you.
and I've got it down for 4 p.m. my time, 2 p.m. Arizona time.
Okay. So yeah, I just forgot to do the time change. So perfect. And there's no conflicts for me at all.
Okay. And then the format for asking questions,
Mhm.
it's sequential or free flow. Does anybody do you have a choice, Amy?
Sequential or free flow?
Yes. Do you want to just go circle and ask questions?
Yeah. One each. Like, we'll just go in circles.
I think
Pretty
we
much what you said.
I think we should have the option though for a follow-up in case like Tom, I asked you a question about we'll just take the first one, like how you got into your leadership position, and then
Yes.
the way you responded, I had a follow-up question. I think that we should keep it somewhat fluid. That way
Oh,
it's kind of
absolutely.
more organically and not this weird like disjointed where I'm asking you questions over here and Sean's asking you questions over here.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll work just fine. I'll just mention again, make sure that I stay on task as far as answering about a team rather than about a mission or something.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's more compelling the other way, but
Well, I can tell you stories. And I will tell you stories to show you how the team acted. You know, it really was a kind of a fascinating once in a lifetime deal. Once in a lifetime year of doing that kind of stuff. Unbelievable the way teams work, how you put yourself in other people's hands and stuff. Probably more like a fire group or a ambulance group.
yeah, and so I'm sure that Sean will also probably have some interesting questions for him being on part of a fire group.
Yes, exactly. So we're going to use sequential, fluid,
Yeah.
right? And you want me to be the interviewee?
Yeah, I think Amy, you were the only person that didn't get to have input, so if you're cool with it.
I am totally fine with it.
Okay. Are you cool with it, Tom? Not having any question, I mean, just being the one in the hot seat and not having the opportunity.
And absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That doesn't bother me a bit.
Okay.
That's kind of
Yeah, that will be good.
mandatory Zoom meeting, got it. Determined format, questions, interviewee, and subject for team questions. They said treat me with respect.
That will probably be the most difficult thing to do.
No abuse. Identify questions that you want to ask me. I'm going to send out to everybody what the structure of medical evacuation was in Vietnam. Then how it works, how many people were involved, all that kind of stuff. And then you can ask about leadership and a part of the team. Because when you were leading the evacuation, you were also very dependent on the crew members.
Oh, I'm sure.
So that'll be very, very interesting. You were dependent on the ground, you were dependent on gunships, you were dependent on a lot of different things. So I will send out a structure either tomorrow, probably by tomorrow night.
Okay. And I think that you're right. Then we should maybe, I know, Amy, that you won't be available because of your trip, but we should maybe try to reconnect either later this week or early next week to kind of finalize a lot of those questions. Because I think having that background information from you will make it easier. So we're not having these like really vague, open, like uninformed questions, trying to get that general info.
Yes. I
So
totally agree. Amy, when are you coming back from Las Vegas?
Sunday evening, but I can try and scoot in or the Zoom meeting with you guys as long as it kind of fits with my schedule. But right now my schedule's kind of all over the place, so I'm not sure when I'm available or not.
we can shoot for next. I mean, I don't want to make an executive decision without the boys.
No,
Mhm.
but
So see if like next Monday or Tuesday would work to have kind of a touch base before the actual Thursday meeting, if that works for people. So I don't know if you have your schedule for both jobs yet for next week, Amy.
What days was it again that you said?
I mean, well, we have
Monday or Tuesday?
like probably Monday or Tuesday. I mean, we could do Wednesday, the night before the
I think
actual
Tuesday would work better.
might be better. You said Tuesday?
Yes. 'Cause I have
Okay.
a night shift on Monday.
Okay. Yeah, we can also like I can send an email out to people tomorrow, kind of gauging people's schedule availability and interest.
Well, let's suggest the same time on
Yeah.
Monday or Tuesday.
Tuesday, like 6
On
p.m.
Monday or Tuesday, yes, because Amy's got a night shift Monday. But just suggest that the three of us can make it on Tuesday
Okay.
and try to catch up or change it to Wednesday.
Okay.
Mhm.
I can make it any time except Friday.
So then just Tom, are we planning to focus then mostly on the your team when you were in Vietnam, or are we also going to try to connect that to like in the professional your financial advising firm that you started and kind of built up? And then also you said you sold it to your son, right?
Yeah,
And so then kind of also that transition.
sure. Whatever, as long as it's, it looks to me like whether it's questions about the team that I was on in Vietnam or whether the team that and am still a part of, either one's fine with me. I can answer any questions on that.
I just wasn't sure, pardon me, if we wanted to try to touch base on both. Kind of, I'm not sure. You said that you have a lot of stories that you could probably tell, and you know what has more relevant information for kind of the interview. If you think it'd be better for us to focus on the medevac team that you were part of, if you think that there's more like team dynamic, team building, team communication, team structure that we can touch on, or if you think that we should look at both experiences you've had.
That's a great question. We can look at both, but the building of a business didn't have a whole lot to do with being on a team, and had more to do with the leadership role and having staff under me. So I was not a leader like my son is. He's got 16 people working for him now. So he's got staff after staff. I had 4 people that did exactly what I wanted. That's how I started it.
I don't know. That sounds like effective leadership, though, like you said.
It was effective leadership, yes, and training and stuff like that.
Okay.
Now it's bigger. There'll be plenty of stuff on Vietnam.
Okay. I'm like excited. That's really fascinating. My Tom's a vet too, so.
Is he?
Mhm.
Was he overseas?
He was in the Navy, so he was in Japan. He was an officer in the Navy. He was stationed outside of Tokyo for like almost 3 years.
Wow, that's cool.
Destroyer. And so he was going all over the South Pacific, and he'll talk about it all the time. He's like, I miss being on a boat. He's like, really? Okay. And then his brothers actually deployed is in Afghanistan right now.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, thank them for their service.
I do quite often.
That's pretty neat. The Navy in Vietnam was the Brownwater Navy. That's what they called him. Ask him if he had ever heard of it.
Okay.
It's Brownwater Navy, and the reason they called it that is these guys were in gunboats going up and down these small rivers and canals.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh, it's Sean.
hi, Sean.
Hi.
Welcome.
Sorry I'm late.
That's okay. Brian, his internet's not working.
Okay.
I think he can
He's
actually
up.
dial in from his phone if he wants. I can try to send him the link.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good idea.
What I missed? Do you guys start from the beginning?
We did confirm next Thursday, we have that mandatory meeting You're aware of that?
Mm-hmm.
And then Tom was saying he's going to kind of put together some general info about the team that he was on, the airback team in Vietnam, so that we can have
Okay.
kind of a way to structure some of our questions. And he's going to try to send that out to us by tomorrow evening. And so we had mentioned we might want to try to do another Zoom meeting like next Tuesday before the actual interview, so we can solidify some of the questions and things.
That's a good idea. And if I could be honest, I have hardly done any of the reading. I think I read like part of. I've been slacking off, so I
Well,
think
that's
by
what
then I'll have a little more.
I've been really sick, and since she didn't post the readings until like yesterday, I read some of the chapter, like some of the one through the library, but I didn't even finish it. So, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm eating.
It's okay. So am I.
When in that chapter 7 or that reading that we had to do at ASU Library, they talk about a lot of things that are kind of just innate in us, but they develop a very simple plan for your questions and ask things like who, what, where, how, when, and kind of develop a sample plan. And then there's a lot of types of different questions, but I think what we're going to be using is kind of more like storytelling. How, what team were you on? How did the leadership develop? What were the reasons? That kind of thing. It's very, very similar to a firefighter. You're dependent on the guy next to you, and he's dependent on the guy next to him. And that's going to be the whole theme throughout.
All right. And I was reading through that chapter as well, and there's I can't remember the names, but there was like just conversational interview, and then there's like structured interview. I was thinking it'd probably be better to do a structured interview given the setting. If we had maybe a combination, allow for a section of the interview to be structured with pre-written questions, and then maybe open it up at the end for maybe more of a conversational flow.
That's what we were talking about, that we would have it somewhat structured and try to maybe go around where I ask a question, you ask a question, Amy asks a question, Brian asks one. So we each have time to kind of get through, since we all have to communicate, like have our own like speaking time, but that there is the room for like follow-up. And so if Tom answered a question a specific way that I had like another question that related to it, that we would leave it somewhat fluid, where there was the option to kind of keep it somewhat more conversational, but in a structured way. That way it wasn't going to be like, I'm asking him questions about one aspect of the team, you're asking him questions about a completely different aspect, and having it be like zigzagging the whole time. So
I think that's a fine idea.
And we're going to go around in a circle. So Sarah would ask a question, and then if she had follow-up, it's just going to be non-formal. If she had a follow-up question to my answer, and then the next person would ask, then the next person, then the next person.
And from
and then are we gonna? Sorry.
No, so you go ahead.
I was gonna say, are we gonna keep our questioning just general to Tom's team and leadership experience, or specific to his Vietnam time?
Well, so that's what we were talking.
Do you want to open it up to?
Go ahead.
I was just saying, do you want us to keep it specific to a certain time in your life, like in the military or your professional career, or like what do you think?
I said to Sarah and Amy, anything that you want to ask me, if you want to ask about the structure of our business and things like that, all well and fine. If you want to ask about Vietnam or after Vietnam coming back and working, anything. But I think that what we want to do is we want to focus it on the team experience, not the Vietnam experience.
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean. It would be all, so it could be general in that way, because you probably have a lot of experience as a team member in a lot of different areas.
Yep.
And I don't want to specifically limit it to
doesn't have
war or business or whatever else.
Right. You know how, when I think that the experience that we had as far as a medical evacuation team is going to be very, very similar to the type of system you have in a firefighting team,
Mhm.
with all the different coordinators and reporting and all those other kinds of things.
Mhm.
Your network band is low.
Mine said that earlier.
It's saying it now too. Anyway, you can ask anything. I am not shy.
Okay. So you guys wanted to do another meeting on Tuesday?
Well, we
Can
were
you
thinking it might be a good idea because I haven't finished all of the readings,
Yeah, I think it's an excellent idea.
and I'm not sure, and especially since we weren't able to get Brian, it looks like now we don't have to necessarily go the full 90 minutes. We could always do like a hybrid. She had talked about that if we want to do part of our communication meeting, and then we could do like a discussion board thing and kind of bounce ideas back and forth since Amy's going to be traveling this weekend.
Yeah, that works.
Have a hard time dialing in, and also for you, I'm not sure what your call schedule is for the next several days. If it's easier for us to do like a discussion board back and forth rather than trying to schedule another call this week.
Yeah. That works for me.
Okay.
See, I'm off tomorrow, and then I work Friday through Sunday, and then I'm off. So Tuesday, if you guys wanted to do another Zoom on Tuesday, that would work for me. And then in the meantime, discuss via email or whatever.
Okay.
Yep.
And then,
If we can come up with a game plan of what we want to come up with tonight, that way we have something to
Right on.
bring to the table on Tuesday.
Yep.
and then there's the
I know Brian had started that document on the internet about just forming some questions,
and so we have that
which
open.
I thought was a good idea.
Yeah, and so we have that open, and I think that once we all read chapter 7, myself
Mhm.
included, it might help us have a little bit more focus to our questions instead of just kind of general, how did you end up here type of.
Right.
Yep. I will send out the structure of that, Sean, so that you know all the players involved in a typical medical evacuation mission. That way that
Okay.
can be directed, if you will.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I was gonna say, I don't know if we want to look at the extra credit opportunity that we had for this discussion, the conflict in teams,
Yes.
conflict and creativity, since we are kind of pushing the interview questions kind of till later in the week via discussion board.
Yes.
Saw that the part B of the not random question, but is there an actual written component that is due this week for our discussion, or just our synopsis?
In the synopsis, it says, post a summary of what I did.
Yeah, so I know she had said that it had to be us specifically, but I wasn't sure if we had like my weeks are like blending together. I wasn't sure if it was like when we had to submit the actual team charter. Was that last week?
That was last week, and that was submitted.
Sure, we had like an actual written team component that we had to submit if we have to submit our questions, or if it's just we have to do our post the recording and have our individual synopsis.
Individual.
I think that's due. I'm looking right now, and there's a section called I lost it. Team 4 interview plan submission.
Yeah.
What's that?
That's what I was trying to figure out. I wasn't sure if we had to.
I think that might just be like an outline of our organization, how we're going to organize our interview, maybe.
Okay.
Who's going to ask what questions? I don't know. Does that sound like what that is?
This stuff is always so like confusing. Follow instructions in the Unit 4 team discussion forum. Okay, well, where is that?
What I got out of the instructions was that we were to post a summary of what we did each during this Zoom meeting.
Mm-hmm.
We needed to make it clear that we read and applied the qualitative research article to our discussion. We needed to submit or contribute 5 questions each. our discussion submission, and then discuss the conflict and creativity in teams, chapter 9, for the extra.
So, I mean, so is that something we can work on before our next meeting and communicate via email? Is everyone comes up with 5 questions,
Right.
and what we'll do is we'll create a sheet or a document that has everyone's name, and then underneath their name we'll have their 5 questions, and that way that'll organize our interview. So, Amy goes first, then Brian, then Sarah, then me, or however, whatever order, and that'll be our plans, our interview plans.
Okay, and I think that we should definitely do that in the Google Doc, just so we make sure.
Yeah.
Like redundant.
So nobody's writing the same question.
Mm-hmm. And then it also might inspire us. So I'm like, oh, that's a really interesting question you have, Sean. That makes me think of, blah, blah,
Right.
blah.
Okay. And we can probably just tag on to what Brian already started. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, so I have the Google Doc up right now. And I think then we could also talk about where we were wanting to have it a structured, but have the opportunity to be a conversational style interview. And maybe having a thing kind of like what our focus, that we're interviewing Tom, that he has experience as being part of the air medevac team in Vietnam, but he also has experience, starting his own business and, being part of a team on that now, and that we're going to have the opportunity to kind of touch into a lot of different things if we want. Although Tom did warn us that he does like to tell stories, so he might get off track in his interviews with lots of stories about Vietnam.
All right.
I
like stories.
When we were flying, can you see my hand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Picture that on fire.
Yeah. That doesn't sound fun.
It wasn't on fire. I do think that the instructions say, though, you should submit or contribute 5 questions each under our discussion submission.
Okay. Well, but I think what I'm seeing right here in the bottom of what section am I in? I think I'm in the Unit 4 assignments or to do. At the very bottom is Unit 4 teams interview plans. And so this is something, it's worth 75 points for the team. So I think like the charter, it's something that we have to have one submission.
Yes.
And I think that is supposed to have our questions and kind of what our hope for what the interview is and how we're planning on structuring it and kind of keeping it moving. And so
I totally agree, but I think each individual should submit it also.
Yeah, in our synopsis.
Yeah, and we can do that under our own discussion, right?
Yeah.
Right, and then we work as a team on the total team.
So I contributed blah 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 via email discussion and Zoom meeting discussion. These 5 questions, and then also on the doc together we can put them on there too for our interview plan.
Okay.
Yep.
Well then, so do we want to try to touch on some of the team conflict stuff? I'm not sure if you guys were able to do the oh my gosh. The other readings. I didn't get through all of the readings. So I didn't get to the linked readings. I was able to read chapter 8 and 9, but I don't know if we want to talk about the questions she gave conflict and creativity, or if we want to try to do that in email in a discussion board, like back and forth with everybody.
Well, I think there's, she asked us 4 questions, right? Is there value in having someone on the team responsible for raising critiques to proposals?
Mm-hmm.
4 questions. We should be able to answer those.
Yeah.
I don't have a. Is that okay with Amy and Sean?
I'm sorry, repeat that. I was trying to read that. What did you say?
There were 4 questions that she had.
Okay, yeah, I see those.
Cognitive and creativity in teams, chapter 9 in text. Do a few rounds of concepts of the chapter. And, it seems like it's pretty easy. The first question was, is there value to having someone on the team responsible for raising critiques to proposals?
I think it is. There is. I think you have someone that kind of plays that devil's advocate. And I think it can often help address and isolate potential issues or problems. I think as long as it doesn't get too like contrarian, sometimes when people are like very aggressive in their critiques, it can be more disruptive to like team flow. But I've been on teams before where everyone's like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, let's go ahead, and then it fails, and afterwards someone says like, oh well, I wasn't certain about X, Y, and Z, and it's like, well, why didn't you say so before we went down this path and had to fail?
Like a group think mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds ready.
It'd almost be better if it's like almost an outside person that does that, you know. But it's not. It can always happen.
My
On
boyfriend's that way.
on page one,
Pardon me?
on page 177, you've got that devil's advocate.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're exactly right. It's,
Mhm.
according to some, it's to the devil's advocate to disagree with the dominant proposal. And the teams that likely do that are less likely to engage in information processing. Having good reasons for this. I think that's good. I think you're right. Amy?
Your volume went down. I like can barely hear you.
Yeah, I lost you too. Yeah.
You want me?
Oh yeah, you're kind of in and out.
Oh, okay. I just think the devil's advocate is correct. Yes.
I think it's a good thing though. I mean, it keeps you from doing dumb ideas. It's like someone needs to talk about the elephant in the room sometimes and say it's a bad idea.
But I think it also helps you be like more proactive, and it helps like address potential issues. I'm trying to think of an example, but it's like at Starbucks. Sometimes we have different like events. They're going to bring in a lot of extra business and extra foot traffic, and being able to say, okay, we're having all of these extra people. That means we're going to have like extra foot traffic through our bathroom. We're going to have all of these other things. And by addressing these problems ahead of time and saying maybe it isn't such a good idea to open up our business for this event, and being able to address some of those potential complications, we can like meet the solve the problem before it happens, if that makes sense, instead of like being reactive and like, oh shit, this happened, what do we do, but being able to like say this might be a problem ahead of time. Now we have a plan if things go sour. I don't know if I'm explaining that very well, but
No, I think very well.
Yeah, so I think if somebody's going to be the one that is critiquing, I just think there needs to be some tact involved. Some people are sensitive, you know, like,
like,
oh, I can't believe you don't like my idea or whatever. All right, I got to go. I'll be back.
well, be safe. Are we just getting his wall?
I was expecting a siren.
I know. I wanted to see the fire pole. I wanted to see him like.
Amy, what do you agree with this?
Yes, I agree. I feel like in order for things to, I don't know, have a better flow, and just like if there's no critiques, then there's no way of learning to do better in whatever you're doing, pretty much. Yeah.
I think that's a good point you made about learning as well. That if people are just kind of keeping on, there's no room really for growth.
Mm-hmm.
And so by like questioning and challenging, it's also saying like, hey, maybe we're doing things really well, but how could we do it even better? Like, we're here, let's get up to here.
Exactly.
And I think that's really important for teams because it's about, progress, not just doing everything the same.
I agree.
All right.
Second question, what are some methods for integrating creative thinking into team projects and meetings?
What are the methods?
That was that part of that chapter 9.
Mm-hmm.
And
Get my book.
yeah.
This was some of the stuff that I had a harder time kind of like wrapping my head around. I think I do have that really generalized version or like opinion of definition of creativity. Where I'm like, oh, creativity is artistic, or you know. I like the diagram. I think it was Fink's model on page 224.
That's correct. Yep.
Talking about like realistic versus idealistic and creative versus conservative.
Yeah.
I years ago worked at a marketing firm and was part of a team, and I used the excuse all the time. I was like, I'm not a creative person. Like, I'm not like, you guys do all the creative thinking and I will do like the analysis and I'll make it happen. And this is interesting. I wish someone would have shown me this this model then.
Yep. I put down as I read. As I read that chapter, I put encourage task conflict at moderate levels.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one thing I got out of the readings. Ask open-ended questions,
Mm-hmm.
not yes or no's. Affirm and build ideas. Not shut the ideas down, but rather, like you're saying, all those boxes are important.
Mm-hmm.
Come up with ideas. You can always cut them back later,
Mm-hmm.
but if you're cutting them as we go along, you stop the other team members from playing.
Mm-hmm.
And then actively encourage all 4 Fink model squares and
Yeah.
brainstorming.
Because I think I'm someone that definitely tends to lean on the side of like being conservative and realistic, kind of the upper right corner, and could benefit from being more on the creative side and also the idealistic side, not just what works, but what, like, how could we make things better? Because if you're not trying to, innovation is something that's so important, especially in teams and in leadership.
Yep.
But I think you're right, like kind of having all of those, trying to dabble in all 4 boxes and being open to like any type of contribution. And then you can play the devil's advocate and say, okay, Tom, you have this idea and it's very much the creative idealism side, but let's talk about this. Let's not just say no, like
Right.
shoot you down.
Amy, what's your thought?
Kind of reminds me of work, because it's like at work a lot of things change often. It's not something that stays consistent, and so like new ideas come to play, and then you kind of see if it works or not, and if it doesn't, then obviously you can always go a different route. But like it just reminds me of like no matter what, there's always going to be some type of creativity, change, whatnot, in like a teamwork work environment. Yeah, I don't know.
Good. I agree.
What are some methods then would you say? Would you just say being like open to all contributions, or like encouraging? That was kind of when I read these questions, I had a little bit of hang up on the methods, because I think I was thinking of like a very specific, like contrived, I don't know, like do this and you will have creativity, if that makes sense.
Oh,
Like I was trying to think of what she meant by is there some method for integrating creative thinking?
I think there is in the text. It kind of goes over those, and one is that actively encouraging all 4 model squares. They said also to think about different categories. If we think in terms of one or two categories, then we limit the unusual category that may very well just be the solution.
Mhm.
So it's thinking of a lot of,
If there was something like a very specific method, not just the like actively encouraging the different quadrants, but like having a I don't know, I can't think of an example. I don't know what I was thinking. I think I was thinking like a very specific type of method, like have a team dinner every week, or like taking art classes. Like I think that's what I was thinking, something like more specific as opposed to like encouraging a certain type of thinking. So I guess that makes more sense.
they talk about fluency, how many ideas can you generate,
Mhm.
flexibility, and originality. And that's just part, but they don't give this is what you do to do it. They
Mhm.
tell you the pros and the cons of a lot of different ways. But as far as I can tell, there's no secret path to it.
I think that's what I was like expecting, like a
Looking,
for. Like,
I don't
okay,
think there's an answer to the question.
okay.
Okay. Amy, anything else?
No.
No. Okay. Her other question was, did we address these in our team charter? I don't think we did.
Yeah, I don't think we talked much about create. I mean, we talked about being like respectful and open to everybody's opinions, which I think
Yep.
is kind of like the first step. Um, I don't think we like actively address this in the charter in terms of how like explicitly saying like we will do these things, but we also didn't do the opposite and say like we will not allow any dissenters, we will not allow discussion.
Right.
It's still like open that we could incorporate all of these things. It's not, they weren't excluded in the
And we'd encourage everybody to input.
Oh my god.
You okay?
Yeah. I feel like I'm being a big baby, but I haven't been sick in so long. I'm like,
Oh no.
I'm practically dying.
Yeah.
Um,
Then what is the difference between productive conflict and non-productive conflict?
I mean, for me, I always think of productive conflict as being trying to like isolate a problem and offer some sort of solution. I know that like my Tom will always tell me, like I'll get really frustrated with something. I'll say, "Oh, this is the dumbest thing ever," and he says, "Okay, well, what would you do better?" I was like, "I don't know, but just not that." And he says, "Well, that's helpful. Like you're just gonna say like this is stupid, but you're not gonna offer a better solution." It was like, ugh, out of my pay grade. But I think any sort of conflict that is offering an alternative and saying, you know, if one of us didn't like the Zoom format, it was like, hey, I don't think this Zoom format works. What if we tried to do something else, because it will allow for, you know, if Sean has a call, if Brian's having internet issues, if Amy's traveling, if I'm sick, and by offering a productive thing rather than saying the Zoom recordings are dumb, I don't want to do them anymore. And then it's like, okay, well, cool.
What's
Yeah.
what's the alternative, huh?
You can't just say this is stupid. But
Right.
and I think also with like productive and non-productive, it has to do with like what the I was thinking about. Go back to my chapter. In chapter 8, if it's talking when it's talking about like the different types of conflicts, you know, relationship conflict, task conflict, process conflict, and so
Yeah.
if it's a process or a task conflict, that's something that can have a productive outcome. But if it's just relationship, um, I think that oftentimes those are going to be more destructive, um, and not quite as productive, just because of the that it tends to be of a more personal nature.
Yep.
But I always tell Tom I'm conflict averse, and I'll like agree to just about anything because I hate like fighting with people. I hate getting into any sort of disagreement except for with him. I'm totally fine with like anything he like proposes. I'm like, no, we have to do it
Bring
this
it on.
where's this coming from? People will do all sorts of things all the time that are like terrible, and you're just like, okay. And so I think it also has to do with like the nature of the team and the relationship people have. That the conflict will be productive if you're comfortable actually like speaking about how you feel. As
Yep.
I can't remember the term from the book, but kind of the group.
Safe.
Yeah, but it also there was the term where it was like going along with what the group says because you don't.
Oh,
I think it was like a group think or.
yes.
But so I think that if people, if it is a safe place and people feel comfortable being, you know, the devil's advocate or kind of a dissenting voice, as opposed to just kind of simmering and be like, I'm so mad we're doing these Zoom meetings. They're stupid. I wish that we would do something else. But being able to feeling comfortable in the environment to actually like speak about your opinions, I guess.
Yep.
That's something I struggle with sometimes at Starbucks. I don't know if you feel that, Amy. Like I especially did when I was a barista, where like with certain shifts, I'd be like, oh my God, why are they doing this? This is so dumb. And even now, like in management, where sometimes like I'm technically not the person that's in charge in a given time period, and it'll drive me crazy. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe we're doing this right now. Why? This is obviously super dumb. I know way better, but it can be hard being on a team when you're not like always the one that's calling the shots. And so I think that as long as you do it like in a respectful way, and as long as the other people are open and willing to have the feedback, because some people, like Sean was saying, can be very sensitive and not necessarily take things as like constructive. It's just, and immediately they see it as an attack.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Tom?
Well, I think as long as I think that the productive conflict actually is very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
The kind that that says, you know, this is my thoughts on that subject. I can see where you think this, but it's a politically correct, if you will, type of discussion that you want to enter into and solicit more feedback. Non-productive is one that says, no, that's my way or the highway. And that way never works.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you have them go down the highway, they're going to get off the street to do what's intended. So unless you have a leadership role that is dictatorial, I think.
I think that's a good point too. That if you're kind of like that authoritative leader, people at some point aren't going to want to follow you. That maybe they'll follow you to some extent, but if you're not very welcoming to other people's like inputs, that eventually the team will kind of crumble, because like what's the point of being on a team if you're just like a peon and just doing like grunt work and not actually being able to actively contribute to the goals and the function.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that. Amy?
Well, I mean, I agree with whatever y'all said, but like at the same time, like I can relate to it because like one job literally is like a non-productive. I don't know, their environment, the way they deal with conflict is pretty non-productive, and then with Starbucks, it's obviously like very productive. Honestly, like because I worked at Jersey Mike's before I worked at Starbucks, and Jersey Mike's kind of got me into, I don't know, like an angry, like one of those non-productive conflict kind of persons, and always dealing with like relationship conflicts and all that stuff, because like I always get so like anal about certain things. And then when it came to Starbucks, they're more open, positive, and like wanting you to see things in a positive way instead of negative. And so like that helped me to be more productive with my conflict. So like I always see like kind of like the bad side. If I go to Jersey Mike's, I'll see that, and then I go to Starbucks, I'm like, oh, that's the better way to do it. So I try to bring that over to Jersey Mike's, although I'm going to leave, but I try to bring it over just so they, learn a better way. And, like saying thank you a lot at Starbucks. I always kind of say that at Jersey Mike's just so people know, like, oh, it makes you feel good when you say thank you to someone, even if it's like not a big deal. It's just like that satisfaction you feel. But yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. Are we done?
We are.
I think. Yeah, I
So
think
our next Zoom meeting is Tuesday at 6 p.m. Arizona time.
yeah, 6 to 7.
Yes.
And we'll set up, I will set up for sure the structure of how an evacuation occurred.
Okay.
Then I'm going to do the submission that we're supposed to do on an individual basis. Do you know when we're supposed to do the team submission of questions and that?
I'm guessing I have it all in my calendar as Sunday. That Sunday's
Yeah.
the deadline. So I think that.
That's what the syllabus says too.
So I think you could do your team submission now if you wanted now. Oh, I guess you're not asking any questions. You're the interviewee, so you can do your individual.
No, I have to ask questions too.
Oh, you do?
That's what it says. I mean, I don't have questions of myself, but I have to do the assignment.
But I'm saying, but do you have to? Because one of the things we were saying that we had to do, we have to include our 5 questions that we want at least 5 questions for the interview in our like weekly discussion.
Synopsis.
But since you don't have to have 5 questions, your synopsis can just be, this is what we talked about, this is how I applied the readings, this is what I did. Right?
I need questions too.
So wait, so are they just going to be part, like, are we asking your questions to you, or you just have to have 5 questions?
I just have to have the 5 questions. I've got to go through the process just like you do.
Okay. That's extra work for you. That's not fair. Oh.
Hey, Sean's back.
Hey, what'd I miss?
We missed the siren.
The extra credit stuff. So we talked about conflict. We kind of answered those 4 questions that she considered, mostly just about the types of conflict that can be positive and productive for a team, and the types that can be destructive and negative. And then how to like foster creativity and like team dynamic. We were actually just getting ready to wrap things up, and we're talking about that we're going to try to do the meeting next Tuesday.
Okay. 6 again?
Yeah, 6 West Coast time.
Yeah.
I can
But
send
Sean, you want to weigh in on those questions because you want the extra 10 points.
Okay, do I need to weigh in on them on the team discussion? Or
I think
these were just,
go ahead, Sarah.
These are the 4 questions that she had posted. And so she said, if we're doing it live, do a couple rounds of your discussion focusing on the concepts of conflict and creativity in teams, using the videos and the textbook readings as the basis. If you do this in your team meeting, I will give each member of the team who participates 10 extra credit points. Be sure to add this to your summary posting from the meeting. And then she said, if written, please add to your written post 2 additional postings, so a 6th and 7th posting, 1 a new thread and 1 a response about the concept of creativity and conflict. So if you want to kind of input in now in this Zoom before we all sign off, it'll probably be easier, and then you can just mention it in your synopsis.
okay.
A written discussion board post, and then that would also give Brian the opportunity if he wanted to chime in.
Okay.
So we kind of just went down. We asked, is there value in having some? Oh, you were here for that one.
Yeah. So what are some methods for integrating creative thinking into team projects and meetings, especially for those who say, I'm not a creative person?
So we talked about in the textbook in chapter 8. Where is it? Chapter 9.
Yep.
So on page
221?
Yeah, but we like on
24.
224. There was a
24.
the pink model that we were talking about, the grid.
Oh,
Um,
realistic, idealistic, creative, conservative.
mhm,
That thing.
mhm.
Yes.
And in the book, it was saying, how can teams maximize the probability of generating ideas that eventually will lead to novel and useful products and services? The key is to actively encourage team members to generate ideas in all of the quadrants. And so we were talking about basically like not shooting people's ideas down and just being open to if someone is like, I tend to be on the more conservative and realistic side of things. I'm not very creative. I'm not very innovative. I'm like, let's go with what works and what's been proven to work. That you do need some of that in a team, but you also need people that are kind of pushing the envelope and are going to be more idealistic and more creative.
Mm-hmm.
And having someone in all, at least one person who kind of touches in all of those things helps kind of incorporate.
Yeah, it's gonna take someone that's a little more outgoing, probably, to draw that creativity out of someone that says, "I'm not a creative person," because they're, I don't know, whatever, for whatever reason, they're not
Yeah,
creative.
the book talks about asking open-ended questions and affirming all ideas and not squashing any of the ideas, but just, actively encouraging all of them, everything that, comes out of that.
Well, I think too, one of the things that's touched on in a bunch of the different chapters, but is being open to failure. That failure, it's not a bad thing, but it's actually like a very encouraging thing because it gives you a point like where to start off from the next time. I mean, it makes me
Mm-hmm.
a really stupid analogy, but it makes me think of like video games. I'm thinking back like old school Mario, where there was like the save point in a chapter. You got to a certain point, and then that was where you would start off the next time. You didn't have to go all the way through, and that's kind of like what failure is. Is it saves you a lot of time saying, okay, we know all of this works, and then this doesn't. So now we can start with what doesn't work and move here, and then build. And it says in the book, according to the IDEO philosophy, people should fail early and fail often.
Exactly. Page 225.
And I think that that's something that's really important with creativity, being able to welcome that and say, like, it's okay if you fail because we're learning. Like, there's a lot of invaluable information that you get from the actual process of trying and failing things.
She asked the question, did we address these in our team charter? And we didn't actually address them, but we encouraged open discussion and, open thoughts and ideas by every team member.
Yeah, is that something we need to add, something like that, to our charter, or is it just, I guess, probably doesn't matter at this point?
Right.
Already in.
Yeah, we had talked about that our charter doesn't like exclude any of these things. It just didn't like explicitly encourage it. So we think that we're fine, that we don't need to modify the charter, but for moving forward, if we were kind of starting a team from scratch, it could be something for us to keep in mind, incorporating into a future charter, just that this idea of questions, being open to all like perspectives and input, and being okay with failure. I think a lot of this too depends on the type of team that you're going to be on and what your like
Yes.
focus is. Because I imagine like for Sean being like with like firefighting, like failure isn't really something that you're
An option.
it's not something that you're going to actively encourage. Like, it's okay, guys, you tried your best. Like,
Yeah.
we won't do that next time.
Yeah, well, that's why you train and stuff. So I mean, that's just a different scenario.
So, then the last question we talked about like productive and non-productive conflict and like what can prompt those and what the differences are and how
Well, I think talking even about like what we were talking about earlier with somebody who is raising a critique to a proposal, that could definitely initiate conflict. But if in the end a positive change comes out of it, or it steers the direction of the team into the right direction, or changes their course for the better, then that's productive conflict.
That's right.
If it causes division because everybody's all hard-headed and sensitive, then that's not productive.
The book says task. Let's see. It says a task conflict at moderate levels is good. That's the most productive.
At what levels?
Text. Wait a minute. Encourage task conflict at moderate levels.
Oh, moderate.
Yeah, not high, not low, at moderate. And that's the most productive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about the different types of conflict: task, process, and relationship.
All right.
On page 197. And
So as far as this section goes, we just need to address it in our discussion points that we went over this.
yeah,
Do we need to actually answer them in there or no?
I don't think so. Just discuss that we talked about each one of them.
And I think that
Okay.
just to cover bases, like I'll probably mention some of the stuff we discussed from the readings, like on page.
Cite something maybe from the book.
Yeah, like the Fink
Yeah.
model on page 24, or maybe drop a quote in just so that she can see that this was.
Yeah, I mean, she wrote on mine. When she graded mine last week, she wrote on there that I wasn't thorough enough in my summary, so I gotta get a little more in depth.
I like how she said it needed to be like a couple, like 2 or 3 sentences was enough. And then each time.
Yeah, now it's not enough. Well, whatever. I did the critique or whatever thing she wanted us to do,
Mm-hmm.
and I wrote in there that there's a little. It's just unclear. Like some of the things are just unclear, especially with how you submit things and what you want, or it is unclear.
Yeah,
I was kind about it, but
I'm like very like anal. I'm a scheduler, and so I filled out like a schedule with like all of my stuff
Yep.
when the term started, because I was out of the country right before when the first week of the term. So I was like, I need to know what I have to do. And for her class, I like have no idea what any of the due dates are. I have no idea like some of the things where I was like, is this an like we were talking about at the beginning of the meeting before you were able to sign on. I was like, is there an actual written thing we have to submit this week? Like we had the charter last week, and there is. We have to submit like all of our questions and
yeah, it's all over the place. But I mean, the content is good. It's just the how you like. I like to see my progress and make sure stuff's in on time and all that, and then it's not the case with this one.
my other class is like the complete opposite. It's the resource allocations with Carol Williams that you said you took before. Where
Yeah.
it's like, I know exactly what I need to do, exactly when I have to do it, but the content is like garbage.
Yeah.
Not learning
Like I
anything.
said, you could write about light bulbs or whatever, and she's, as long as it's APA format, you're good.
I talked to my success coach today. I was just like, with this class, and she's like, just so you know, that's a known issue. Like the department's working on it. And I was like, well, they haven't fixed it yet because I'm still not learning
Yeah.
anything about finance, which sucks. But
You're right.
As soon as the unit opens, what I do is I outline the whole thing.
mm-hmm.
That's the first step that I did. So if you look, this is one. Are you still there, Sean?
Yeah, I'm still here.
2, 3, 4.
Wait, how did you get 5 already?
Because I outlined everything and then answered the questions on the paper.
Oh, I thought that was for each page was each unit.
No, this was just for Unit 4.
Oh my gosh.
But that's the only way I can understand the sequence,
Yeah.
what we have to do. And
I should try something like that, because I start reading, maybe I have ADD, I don't know. I start reading and I'm just like, this is a lot of stuff.
there is a lot of stuff, but some of it, skips down to the second
Yeah.
discussion and then back to the first. So if you outline it like that, it's a lot easier, I think. And
Yeah.
four more outlines, so to speak. So,
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's a good idea. That's a good method.
it's the only way. But I do that in every class.
Mhm.
Or just one sentence. Others are many sentences. So,
Yeah.
I have the advantage of this course before, not this course, but one by Dr. Shanley last year. And so that's how I learned to outline it. And the outline really well.
I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
do that going forward.
Okay. So as far as what we want to get completed by Tuesday, what we come up with? 5 questions.
Well, so we need to have the 5 questions before Tuesday.
Yes.
Because we have to have the 5 questions. We have to submit the questions we want by Sunday. Part of our our team assignment, the actual written thing that you'll be submitting, the Google Doc that Brian will kind of.
Okay, so you just want to put our names per name, 5 questions, and we'll kind of submit it that way. And then is there going to be like a statement at the beginning that says what we're going to do and how we're going to do it? Or
yeah, I think that we should have like a little intro and just saying we're interviewing Tom, that these are the things that we're planning on discussing. These are our interviews. We're planning on doing a structured but conversational interview format, like blah, blah, blah. I think that it would be a good idea for us to have a team discussion board this week, just since Brian wasn't able to contribute, wasn't able to participate in the meeting, that way we can all interact with each other. Or I guess the Google Doc could work as well.
it would just, as long as we document it on our discussion board.
So I think we could do both, but
Okay, so are you guys good with we'll just communicate via email like we have been, and then also just input onto the Google Doc as we go?
Okay.
Yes.
I think though that doing an actual like a discussion board post might be easier than doing the inter email, since it's really difficult to like respond in those.
Yeah.
Okay, that works.
Long thread.
So we can post stuff on discussion board unit 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The post of the discussion board unit 4, and then afterward I'll call her tomorrow and see if then we would still have to do a synopsis. But
well, wait a minute. I'm getting confused. At the end of our team discussion tonight, what I thought we were supposed to do is, number one, post a summary of what I did, each of us, during the Zoom meeting. Then make it clear that we read and applied all the research articles to the discussion. Submit or contribute 5 questions each under our discussion submission. And then mention that we discussed the conflict and creativity in Teams Chapter 9.
And so since like I haven't finished the readings yet for this week, so that's why I can't. That's why I was saying, I think, and then Sean, you were saying you were in the same boat. Amy, you were saying you were in the same boat, right? That we haven't, all the 3 of us weren't able to finish, and I'm not sure where Brian's at. But since that way we can finish the readings and then engage with the material. For her
Right. You can still put your questions. You can still put your questions on the discussion.
Yeah, but I don't have them yet.
No, but you don't have to submit the discussion yet, right?
Okay, I'm sorry. I guess I got confused. I thought you were saying about a submission.
So I don't know if the team discussion board is meant to just be a place where we submit our summaries of our Zoom meetings, or is it a place where we can actively communicate with each other?
It's a place where we can actively communicate. So that for the teams that aren't doing a Zoom meeting each week, like a discussion board post. So like I would do a post and say, this is my thoughts about an interview, about conflict, about whatever it was for that unit. And then Sean, you would have a post, Amy would have a post, Tom would have a post, and Brian would have a post. And each of us would have to have at least 4 responses to each other's posts. So I would have to respond to you, to Amy, to Tom, and to Brian. And you would have to respond to everybody. That way there was the same kind of dialogue, the back and forth. So that's how other teams are using the discussion board. And then they're not
instead of our summary.
Because they're not having to do a summary, they have the actual discussion board. And that's where she was saying
you're proposing we do a summary and actively discuss with each other?
I was just saying for if we wanted to, Tom's going to send out his
Structure.
the structure of his team tomorrow night to us.
Mhm.
So that way we can kind of start building our questions. So I was saying we could do a discussion board pertaining to the questions rather than doing it within a Google Doc. If we wanted to actively like interact with each other, if I see your question, Sean, and then wanted to like bounce some ideas off of you, but we could just do it in a Google Docs. I just thought it might be a little bit more streamlined in a discussion board post so we could see like the chronology, like you say this, then me, then however we're interacting, but we
Mhm.
can do it however. I was just kind of throwing some ideas out there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. I think doing that's fine, but I think also we should do a Google Doc so that way it's all compiled together for when we submit it. It's there.
Yep. I
But
agree.
I have no problem with talking on the discussion group. That sounds like a good idea.
So I was just thinking, because that was also,
I mean, I guess it's all up to Amy, whatever Amy wants to do.
I'm fine with that.
we were talking about that at the beginning of the meeting because we weren't sure, if we'd even be able to fill the time, the 90 minutes that she wants for, but we did. So,
Mhm.
but I think that way we can, I think, interact with each other as we're forming our question.
Okay, so I like it. So do you want to just pigtail onto Brian's document that he started?
Mhm.
And then
Yes.
will we each 5 have a section of questions, or how do you want to do that? Yeah.
I think that's good.
Yes, then we can go over them next Tuesday night.
Mhm.
Sounds good. And then with that said, that document's due on Sunday, correct? Is it not?
No, it's due Sunday. You're correct.
Okay. And just for clarification, for me, who is the official document submitter, do I submit that under team interview plans?
I think so. I think it's the very bottom of the unit 4.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. That sounds like a good idea.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll upload this to YouTube and send the link out tomorrow. Tomorrow afternoon. And then that way maybe Brian will be able to watch some
Catch up.
and can kind of interact and send his stuff and kind of have an idea of what we're all thinking with that document, since he's the one that's kind of in charge of the formatting and getting it the way we want it to look.
All right.
Very good.
All right.
I'm going to start.
Anything else?
What's that?
Anything else that we have?
Oh, I got something. Since we're doing the active discussion or whatever, the extra credit portion, do we just submit a separate discussion point that says we discussed the 4 conflict, whatever
Since we're
question?
doing the live dialogue, you can just include that in your synopsis. So in the synopsis, you can say, we discussed
Okay.
the team conflict. I think Tom and I were saying that we're going to try and connect it to some specific like things out of the
Right.
on page.
Right. And so we're going to still do the synopsis and then continue on with dialogue also. Got it.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
if you
We'll just label it. I'll just label that discussion point as a synopsis of our Zoom meeting.
yeah, I would still label it,
Some
synopsis.
that'll be different.
And then
Okay.
the other one can just be like interviews. And I think we could even just have one person's thread, like one post. And since we did this actual Zoom meeting and we don't need to have the assigned like 6 discussion posts or whatever, I think it would work if we had just like one person posted and then we had like a conversation, a thread off of all of that, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah,
And then each of us having our own unique discussion posts.
that works. That keeps it organized. So whoever gets on there first and does it, we'll just thread off of that one.
Are you uncertain about that, Tom? I saw you shaking
I
your head.
am. Yeah. I think each one of us has to make it clear what we did in that.
No, we're not.
Yeah, that's going to be independent of that. We're each going to do our own synopsis, and then we're going to create it'll be a 6th thread that's going to be just discussion about what's going on.
Yeah, there'll be 5, or I guess technically 4, since Brian won't be able to do a synopsis. There'll be our 4 posts about the synopsis for the meeting, each of us having our own unique one. And then we'll have another post that is just specifically about like the interview questions. And then that
Yes.
It doesn't have to be a Tom interview question, a Sean interview question. We can have one post and then just all reply within that one post.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. We could actually attach the Google document if you want it.
Yeah, and we were saying we'll still use the Google document, but just to cover our bases, in case she says we didn't discuss the interview enough in our actual Zoom meeting, because I don't have anything that in my synopsis that I can put really about the questions as much. That way we
Not
can
yet.
interact with each other. But
Okay.
we don't, that one, since it's not really for an assignment, that one's not for points. So people can use it or not. It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
All right.
Very good. Anything else?
Nope.
All right.
See you guys on Tuesday, and then we'll chat via interweb.
Very good.
Amy, have fun in Vegas.
Yes, have a great
Don't
time.
have too much fun in Vegas.
Drink lots of water.
Definitely.
And it stops snowing. It stopped snowing in Minnesota
Oh, good.
All
It's
right.
yesterday.
last night.
It's
Good
hot
night.
here. All right. Bye.
All right. See you guys next week.
Yep.
Good night.